All right, peace and blessings. It's your brother Sorry back with yet another one. Y'all kind of been rocking with me. I seen not there a couple of days, so it's gonna be the last one for the day. Y'all might get them at varying different dates, but I think y'all will be pleased with what you get. Um, this is gonna kind of get into, before we even talk about what we're getting into, man. Peace to the ancestors. Love y'all, miss y'all. And peace and blessings to the true and living. Peace to the true and living. Peace to the gods, man. Who is the true and living? If you've been following any of this stuff, you know what I'm saying? We're not ones of the mentally dead. We're the true and living. You feel me? So y'all been following this series. You are the true and living. Thank y'all for tuning in. Nice to meet you. And if you're liking what you're hearing, man, like and subscribe, man. We've been kind of out here thugging in these streets, as they say, in these YouTube streets, as they say, putting down some good material, still in this whole paradigm, continuing this thought experiment, this extended thought experience into a whole playlist, the electric soul, and we kind of following the whole idea bio etheric feedback loop and all that. Y'all gonna have to go back on previous videos to kind of you know, get the gist of what we've been talking about. We're dealing with the soul as if it's an electrical phenomenon and not a spiritual one. Not taking anything away from the soul as a spiritual phenomenon, but we're dealing with it as an electrical phenomenon so we can accumulate a few receipts. And, we just want to get a couple receipts and take it to the house real quick. So, um, we're going to talk about Rasayana today. We're going to talk about, aging and metabolism and pranayams and asanas. We're gonna get into all that. You know what I mean? If you like what you've been hearing, like and subscribe. Let's get to it. Okay, so the bioetheric feedback loop, a quantum bioelectrical synthesis of yogic attainment, mitochondrial dynamics, and alchemical regeneration. Yeah. Okay, so the bioetheric feedback loop, foundational principles, and the DC field blueprint. All right. So defining prana, consciousness, and the universal blueprint. So in a previous video, we did the nukta, the hatted point, the black dot. We talked about prana. You see what I'm saying? We've been talking about vortexes in the ether. At the middle of the vortex, the center of the vortex will be back to that black dot or that hatted point once again, or whatever case may be. And we talked about what these things do. Now we theorize those things as the same thing that we're talking about when we say principles, right? It's not the field itself. The field itself would contribute to the pattern. It's not the field itself. It's the blueprint or the source of the field, as we're going to see when we get further down into this. And you can go back into that video in the Ether series, number 7, the Nukta. Let's get into this. The bioetheric feedback loop model provides a theoretic framework that unifies the energetic concepts of classical yoga philosophy, right, with the biophysical reality of the body's endogenous electrical systems, right? So we going into yoga philosophy, but we dealing with the electrical nature of the body systems and stuff like that. At the foundation of this model lies the concept of prana, right? We talked about how prana, these little black dots, like the center of a magnet that facilitates the north and south pole, centripetal and centrifugal. How we just talked about left hand and right hand path, torsional fields, the spin of torsional fields, or whatever case may be. The energy that they emit, either destructive or a stabilizing energy and stuff like that. We're talking about prana and the Lord Kelvin vortex model of the atom. We talked about Tesla and how he has a vortex, how we theorize the cell as a stable etheric vortex. We talked about how principles are stable etheric vortexes, archetypes in the mind, stable etheric vortexes. So we're getting into all that. Okay, from this model, we really lean heavily on Nikola Tesla and his non-particle etheric framework. All right. So at the foundation of this model lies a concept of prana, which is not merely breath, which is not merely breath. Shout out to yeah, brother Ralph Smart, man, breathing in this good ass prana. You know what I'm saying? As he always say. But as we're gonna see here, at the foundation of this model lies a concept of prana, which is not merely just breath. So it's in the air. You're breathing in energy in the air, or whatever case may be. But it's not merely breath, but is defined as the macrocosmic, universal, all-encompassing energy from which all life draws substance. Right? Isn't that what Afro Uno said when we went into the introduction of nature? He says he called them newts or neutral centers. John Keeler calls them neutral centers. Afro Uno calls them newts. Dr. York calls them etheric brain seeds. Same thing. He calls them newts because they're neutral in essence and everything like that. They're like the smallest particles or whatever. According to Afro Uno, all of our physical senses, we experience all of our physical senses through these newts or whatever. They transmit the energy, similar to how we talked about Eric Dollard, how he talks about the sun is a transformer of energy from counter space into discharge on this side, and the planets absorb that energy and transmit it as like harmonic resonators and stuff like that. So we talked about all of that. Okay, so all the energy of life is facilitated by these little dots, this prana or whatever, what we talking about, what we talked about in the previous video. All right, this as opposed to the atom, because remember we talking about we're not dealing with electrons, we're dealing with neutral centers. John Keeler called them atomos, atomalinis, and stuff like that. He had other words for them. This concept established the etheric counterpart of the loop, representing the fundamental informational and energetic source. You see what I'm saying? Every field, if a field has to have a source or a base, you see what I'm saying? Representing the fundamental informational and energetic source, classical texts assert that prana and consciousness exist as two poles of one reality. Prana and consciousness, these dots that I'm talking about, is intrinsically linked to consciousness. This interdependence means that any modulation of prana through conscious control directly influences the quality and state of consciousness. So anytime you manipulate the prana in your body, you know what I'm saying, the awareness, awareness of tension and everything like that, that facilitates an electrical charge in the body and everything like that. So that's similar to like how we talking about prana and everything like that. The mindfulness, it follows the mind and everything like that. Prana, chi, all that. In the context of the human organism, the presence or absence of prana is linked directly to the definition of life itself, as the loss of prana is synonymous with the departure of consciousness and the definition of death. So absence of prana is that's synonymous with the decoupling of this field. Remember we talked about how death is the decoupling of this field from its semiconductor, the body, or whatever case may be. So that action is synonymous with a lack of prana. Okay, so this understanding shifts prana from an abstract spiritual concept to a foundational energy required to sustain coherent biological function in high fidelity consciousness. To bridge this principle with measurable biology, the model integrates the work of Robert Becker, we've been talking about, regarding the direct current bioelectrical field. Becker's research identified a pervasive slow-wave DC field that acts as a primary informational structure governing tissue regeneration and biological processes operating outside of the neural network. So this is not the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. This is something outside of that cells use to communicate, and it governs cellular regeneration and differentiation and de-differentiation and reclassification in the body. This DC field contributes to the bioelectrical component of the loop. The first order synthesis proposed by the Bio-Aetheric Feedback Loop is that the body's endogenous DC bioelectric field is the physical manifestation and measurable carrier of pranic instructional energy. So this DC bioelectrical field that Becker was talking about on out into the human biofield that Eileen D. McCusick and Jerry Tennant talk about, the universal etheric blueprint made operational within the biological system. The DC field acts as the command and control center, distributing the necessary energetic and informational instructions derived from the fundamental pranic system. Okay, so this control system, this ties into this control system of DC control system, analog nervous system that your cells use. It ties into its electrical signals tie into the electrical signals that are emitted by the piezoelectric fascia and bone of the body and stuff like that. That's why your marmer points, acupressure points, acupuncture points are all lined along fascia. You see what I'm saying? Go back to the previous video that we just, the previous video that we just did. It kind of goes into that. So we got the bioelectrical coherence, dissonance, and epigenetic information loss. The integrity of biological system spanning from cellular function to conscious state is contingent upon the electrical state of this particular DC field, what we're talking about. This particular nervous system, the third nervous system, what we're talking about. The optimal functional state is defined as coherence, right? Resonance, characterized by high synchronization, rhythmic stability, and low systematic electrical resistance, right? Same thing how what we're going to be talking about in another video when we get into tantra and stuff like that, about the different paths of tantra, how they're trying to increase the voltage in the system. They're trying to increase the pressure in the system, in the energetic system. This high fidelity state ensures the seamless and accurate transmission of the pranic blueprint throughout the organism, right? This system is what transmits the pranic blueprint, is what we call in the soul. You see what I'm saying? Throughout the body. Conversely, the process recognizes aging is fundamentally linked to the accumulation of electrical dissonance, right? A decrease in the coherence, synchronization, and strength of the DC field. So this is what aging is according to this model. Electrical dissonance and a decrease in the coherence and synchronization of this in the strength of this DC field. This accumulating dissonance results in the gradual breakdown of systematic functional integrity, a process manifested biologically as the accumulation of oxidative damage and the eventual failure of cellular quality control mechanisms. So oxidative stress is caused by it could be caused by the food, it can be caused by the environment, the radio frequencies and things like that, the infrastructure that we're exposed to every day and everything like that. That's another reason why I say, the light therapy is a thing. You see what I'm saying? I would advise people to continue to take their herbs and stuff like that, because you need every vector that you can, you see what I'm saying, to kind of combat what's coming at us and everything in this modern time. A critical marker of aging is a systematic loss of informational precision, recognized as de-differentiation, right? The loss of informational precision. Okay, for instance, that sounds like entropy in a sense to me. Research indicates that older adults exhibit less distinct occipital-temporal activation patterns for visual stimulus, suggesting a de-differentiation of visual representations in their aging brain, or whatever the certain qualities of their brain is breaking down as far as their abilities to do certain things. This process of cellular de-differentiation is ceasing to be what it used to be. It's not restricted to the nervous system. It signifies a systematic loss of the specialized epigenetic information that directs specific cellular fate and function throughout the body. Wow. As the epigenetic profile destabilizes, cells lose their organizational clarity, leading to functional decline. So basically, the damage of the DNA, you lose access to the blueprint. You see what I'm saying? Okay, the critical relationship between the DC field and information transfer implies that the DC electrical current functions as a non-molecular mechanism maintaining epigenetic fidelity. The field provides the necessary informational directive for guiding and stabilizing cellular identity. Because then we just say cells are like living batteries, or whatever case may be. They're semiconductors in Becker's work, but we fleshed it out as far as Tesla stuff. They're like living capacitors, and their identity as a kidney cell, liver cell, whatever they may be, it's a part of the charge that they hold. That's an aspect of the charge, their identity. You see what I'm saying? Preventing the catastrophic loss of instructional clarity. This field is also implicated in actively driving regenerative processes. Specifically, the DC current, electrical current, can de-differentiate red blood cells, turning them into versatile stem cells, similar to what we talking about on the previous videos. This regenerative capacity is crucial because stem cells create new cells rather than merely attempting to repair damaged ones, right? Offering a pathway toward true renewal and integrity. The functional relationship between these components is hierarchically ordered. Prana, source, blueprint. So the prana is associated with the soul, like what we've been talking about. Like prana is associated with this black dot, this hatted point, all that stuff like that. Provides the informational energy, which is carried and transmitted by the DC field carrier instruction set. This information is then processed and powered by the mitochondria, because we talk about mitochondrial DNA and the mitochondria in general. Engine power supply, which directs the molecular machinery encoded by the epigenome physical implementation, right? Consequently, dissonance at the level of DC field causes a cascade failure of this informational flow, which is precisely the process recognized as biological aging. So it's a breakdown, basically, it's like a breakdown of the DNA, or it's a breakdown of its ability to access the blueprint. You see what I'm saying? All right. The following table summarizes the observed and hypothetical bioelectrical correlates of key yogic states. Okay. Okay, so asanas, which are the postures, we talked about mudras being like asanas for your fingers. Somatic stimulation and structural alignment, that's the primary biophysical effect. Measured bioelectrical change, optimization of resistance and reactance, impact on coherence, enhanced conductivity, and energy storage. That's what happened. That's the effect of asanas on the body, or whatever case may be, because the asanas, whenever you're stretching, you're affecting the ligaments, tendons, and the fascia, which is electrically conductive and reacts to stress. Okay, pranayamas, volitional regulation of autonomic rhythms, because the breath is simultaneously conscious and subconscious. Conscious and unconscious. If you don't think about it, you're gonna still breathe and you're not gonna stop. If you think about it, you can consciously control your breathing. Okay, so increased alpha, theta relaxation, and beta alertness, power decreased reaction time, right? Okay, that's the bioelectrical change. Impact on coherence, impose high order rhythmic coherence, right? The pranayams do that. Samadhi. Samadhi is a state that you get to through some level of realization, absorption and dissolution of egoic constructs, right? Peak coherence and midline central region. Profound phase angle shift. Maximum systematic synchronization with prana. So when you get to samadhi, these states or whatever of heightened attainment or whatever, yogic attainment or whatever, that's what he's talking about. It's talking about maximum systematic synchronization with the prana, okay, or with the blueprint. Okay, so yogic regulation, bridging consciousness and bioelectric potential. The core tenet of the bioetheric feedback loop is that the state of the mind and the body's energy environment can be willfully modulated through specific practices, right? Thereby restoring coherence and reversing dissonance. So the body's energy environment can be willfully modulated through specific practices. So through specific practices, we can reverse the aging process or stave off the aging process, this breakdown of our ability to access the blueprint. You see what I'm saying? Yogic disciplines categorized into asana, pranayama, and advanced states such as samadhi represent a graded methodology for entering this feedback loop. Asana practice, the physical component of yoga, serves as somatic gateway to modulate the DC field's flow and distribution. By employing specific postures that involve stretching, compression, and sustained holds, the practices stimulate the nervous system and re-energize the body. So this is the purpose of yoga, to reinvigorate the body and stuff like that, stave off the aging process and allow us for our bodies to be able to access the energetic blueprint for longer amounts of time. For the biophysical standpoint, the connective tissues, particularly the fascial planes, we're talking about the fascia, are hypothesized to function as semiconductor pathways for DC current, this third nervous system that we're talking about. Asanas physically modulate these planes, optimizing the flow and distribution of bioelectrical field. Okay, so the asanas basically allow for less resistance for the electric flow, the bioelectrical flow in the body. The aim of these practices is to decrease overall physiological electrical resistance. So, okay, so in all of this spiritual attainment talk that we've been talking, video after video, a lot of the common theme that we see is electrical resistance, increased pressure of the electrical current through the body, or whatever case may be. That's the type of things that we keep talking about. So negative karma creates resistance. Certain things, stagnation in the body creates resistance. All that we kind of seeing that. And okay, so electrical resistance optimize the capacitance of cellular membranes. Capacitors are batteries, their ability to hold charge, right? Their ability, the charge is ultimately coming from the blueprint or whatever. That's their identity, or whatever case may be. Wrinkles and, your body ain't how it used to be, hunched up because you lost access to the blueprint how you used to be, to correct the body and stuff like that. The body need to know how to correct itself and fix itself, accessing the blueprint. Resistance represents the opposition to the flow of alternating current, while reactance reflects the energy storage capacity provided by the bilipid cell membranes. By achieving optimal resistance and reactance, the body maximizes both its energy storage capacity and its ability to conduct the bioelectrical current necessary for instantaneous information transfer and regeneration. This initial physical synchronization lays the groundwork for more subtle regulation. So I would advise, my elder gods, what I'm saying, y'all to make sure you stretch. You see what I'm saying? More than anything or whatever, stretching will get that current moving through the body, so you won't have to use a walker or a cane or whatever case may be. It might give you a little bit of regenerative motion, Okay, so pranayama, the volitional regulator of autonomic coherence. Pranayama, the yogic practice of controlled breathing, all right, constitutes the critical mechanism through which the conscious mind interfaces with and regulates the otherwise involuntary rhythmic systems of the body. So breathing is a way to impact the involuntary systems of the body. The breath acts as a unique voluntary lever standing between the conscious and the subconscious minds, right? By regulating the respiratory cycle, the practitioner can introduce a volitional, high-order rhythmic input into the automatic nervous system. It's like an electrical signal, the rhythmic nature of the breathing, thereby imposing order or on rhythm that may otherwise be chaotic or dissonant due to stress. All right, that frequency of breathing is like an electrical signal and it calms stress or whatever case may be. Rhythmic breathing. This volitional regulation directly influences the reticular activating system, RAS, in brain. The reticular activating system acts as a gatekeeper for arousal and attention, filtering sensory information by imposing order through rhythmic breathing. Pranayama stimulates the RAS, which symbolizes both physical and mental states. The practice enhances access to higher consciousness and intuition by reducing mental entropy, mental destruction over time. The neurological evidence for this regulatory mechanism is robust. Studies utilizing combined asana and pranayama training have shown simultaneous beneficial effects: a decrease in resting electromyography, EMG voltage, signifying profound muscular relaxation, alongside an increase in total power of electroencephalogram, EEG, especially in the theta alpha bands. Crucially, there is also an increase in beta power and a decrease in reaction time. The simultaneous occurrence of relaxation, alpha, theta, and heightened cognitive efficacy, beta, decreased reaction time, demonstrates a state of alert relaxation, right? Tension can't be maintained, but relaxation can be maintained indefinitely, right? This neurological profile represents a phase lock, highly coherent, electrical output in the central nervous system, CNS, maximizing processing power while significantly minimizing systematic stress. So it's maximizing the processing power, maximizing the energetic flow, minimizing the stress, minimizing the resistance. Okay, just like how you would do in an electrical circuit. That's kind of how we doing this. The effectiveness of pranayama is enforcing this alert relaxation affects the ability of coherent rhythmic inputs to override the electrical dissonance. So what it say? Coherent rhythmic inputs override electrical dissonance, right? So you breathing, it sets a cadence and it sets a particular frequency aligned with an electrical frequency that modulates the stress, right? Or that alters the stress. Okay, so samadhi, maximum system electrical synchronization. The advanced yogic state of samadhi or absorbed meditation represents the culmination of this feedback loop, the culmination of the feedback loop, a state where volitional control is relinquished because the biological system has achieved optimal self-sustaining coherence, right? This state is no longer purely subjective, but represents a quantifiable neurophysiological signature, right? A state where volitional control is relinquished. You don't have to be in control because the biological system has achieved optimal self-sustaining coherence. Similar to like how we were talking about the layman, philosopher, scientist, and the artist, effortless, proper application, something like that. And analysis of the absorbed meditative state reveals specific topographical patterns indicating profound systematic organization. Expert meditators recorded during samadhi exhibited comparatively high power in the theta, alpha, and beta frequency bands significantly during the absorbed meditative state. The alpha and beta activity was notably higher at the midline central region. This centralized midpoint coherence suggests an intense, profound level of systematic synchronization across the cerebral cortex. Okay. The bioetheric model, the midline coherence, is interpreted as the physical representation of the individual's bioetheric field, okay, achieving maximum resonance and aligning with the informational matrix of prana. So the midline coherence is interpreted as the physical representation of the individual's bioelectric field. Okay, so the metabolism, metabolic reduction, and sensory suspension typical of samadhi, all right, would be expected to correlate with a profound and measurable shift in the electrical characteristics of the body, right? The electrical characteristics shift, so the metabolism and the sensory suspension, it changes. Okay, specifically, this synchronization is predicted to manifest as an optimal phase angle in bioelectric impedance measurements or whatever case may be. So less resistance, in other words, it's an optimal lack of resistance. In other words, this shift would reflect reduced tissue resistance and significantly optimize cellular membrane health and energetic signature of maximum systemic electrical synchronization and minimal dissonance. So samadhi, from an electrical perspective, it's the system running extremely efficiently, damn near about as efficient as it can run. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so the anti-aging imperative, mitochondria, Kriya Yoga, and decentralized medicine. All right. Let's see, aging and mitochondrial dissonance and oxidative attack. Okay, so this is gonna link oxidative stress with dissonance within the mitochondria itself and aging as aging period. Because when we get into Rasayana, the metabolism that takes place in the cell or whatever case may be is equated with aging, the burning and everything like that. The powerhouse of the cell is the mitochondria. So we're going to get into that. The bioetheric model converges directly upon mitochondrial health, right? As the physical engine, when we said in Star Wars, the midichlorians that allow Anakin and Luke and all them to interact with the Force and stuff like that, that was taken from the model of the mitochondria because it's the powerhouse of the cell. So the bioetheric model converges directly upon mitochondrial health as the physical engine sustaining electrical coherence, right? Mitochondria are the cytoplasmic organelles responsible for generating cellular life, energy, adenosine diphosphate, ATP, and regulating crucial biological processes, including reduction, oxidation potential, and free radical scavenging. All right, so that's what the mitochondria does. The primary mechanism of aging is explained through the mitochondrial free radical theory of aging, right? During normal energy metabolism via the electron transport chain, electrons can escape the process. Uh, let's see here, reacting with water to produce reactive oxygen species, ROS, as opposed to, like we talked about earlier, RAS. These highly toxic ROS reactive oxygen species are the agents of oxidative attack, oxidative stress, what we just talked about, accumulating damage in critical cellular components, most notably the mitochondria, right? Oxidative stress um, is occurring in the mitochondria when we encounter oxidative stress from all this technology, from all the stuff that we encounter on a day-to-day, okay, which lacks the robust repair mechanism of nuclear DNA. So, wow, okay, so mitochondrial DNA lacks the ability to repair itself like nuclear DNA would. And mitochondrial DNA is the powerhouse of the cell, and typically its degradation might account for a lot of the lack of access to the blueprint, the aging process in humans. With advanced age, the cell suffers from mitochondrial dysfunction, characterized by a decrease in the volume and integrity of the mitochondrial DNA, lower in oxidative capacity, and significant increase in ROS generation. Furthermore, critical cellular quality control mechanisms such as mitophagy, the process that removes dysfunctional mitochondria, decline with age. So the ability to remove dysfunctional mitochondria decline with age. This deterioration of mitochondrial architecture constitutes an energy system's failure underlying age-related electrical dissonance. So basically how Jack Cruz talks about, decentralized medicine and everything like that being focused on the mitochondrial DNA as opposed to the nuclear DNA. As we see, the aging process, um, it's relying heavily on the destruction of the mitochondria, the degradation of the mitochondria, the degradation of the mitochondrial DNA, the access to the blueprint to show our cells how to fix themselves, right? So Dr. Jack Cruz's decentralized paradigm, Dr. Jack Cruz's framework of decentralized medicine provides a crucial corroboration for the bioetheric model by emphasizing the quantum regulatory powers of mitochondria, right? Rather than focusing solely on the nuclear regulatory center, nuclear DNA, Cruz asserts that the mitochondria, being evolutionary descendants of the edocytosis cytosid bacteria, hold functional sovereignty and dictate the primary rate of age and disease progression. So he's basically saying the mitochondrial DNA determine how fast we age. You see what I'm saying? The health of this decentralized quantum engine is determined by environmental inputs, particularly light, water, magnetism, and also all those electro poisons, frequency poisons. Cruz's model explains that these environmental factors directly influence the efficacy of the electron transport chain and the structure of cellular water. By optimizing these quantum inputs, the body can maximize electron flow and ATP production, efficiently minimizing the production of ROS. You see what I'm saying? The source of electrical dissonance or cellular oxidation. This approach shifts the paradigm from treating the molecular symptoms of disease to optimizing the fundamental quantum substrate of life, treating the problem instead of treating the symptom. You see what I'm saying? This approach shifts the paradigm from treating molecular symptoms of disease. So we just give you some medicine and get you hooked up, to optimizing the foundational quantum substrate of life. So that'll eliminate the issue altogether. So let's keep going. Kriya Yoga and Rasayana, Bio-Etheric Mitotherapy, Kriya Yoga, and the associated disciplines of Rasayana. You see them, longevity medicine. The Ayurvedic science of rejuvenation offers an internal, non-pharmacological pathway to maximize mitochondrial health. Aligning conceptually with modern mitotherapy, yoga practices are documented to improve the integrity of both mitochondrial and nuclear DNA, providing objective evidence of their restorative power on the physical architecture of the cell. Specific research on breath-centered practices such as Sudarshan Kriya Yoga demonstrates a profound molecular link. Studies have shown that the practice of Sudarshan Kriya Yoga, especially when combined with advanced meditation, leads to a systematic modulation of cell expression. Specifically, there were significant decreases in the expression of pro-inflammatory genes such as interleukins and the tumor necrosis factor. Concurrently, there was a observed increase in the expression of antioxidative genes, including superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase. The modulation of the genomic landscape confirms a vital principle: the coherent energy established through pranayama, etheric input, because when you're breathing in, you're breathing in energy. This energy, these particles that facilitate all energy transfer, is translated into precise, stabilizing epigenetic control, molecular output by systematically reducing inflammation and boosting the cell's internal antioxidant defenses. The practice directly counters the ROS production and damage outlined by the MFRTA. MFRTA, that's an acronym for the mitochondrial free radical theory of aging. You see? Okay, so let's see where we at. The resulting stable cellular environment is resistant to the electrical dissonance that characterizes aging. Okay, validating the focus on mitochondrial health central to decentralized medicine paradigms. Interesting, because when you read these stories about, we always talk about how at a particular time things could grow larger on the planet, right? And like dinosaurs, mastodons, and things of that nature. And we talk about right now things can no longer grow large on the planet. We talk about the electrical environment on the planet was different way back when or whatever. The melanin, go back and look at the video we did about melanin. The melanin could function at its optimal capacity or whatever case may be. And no coincidence, even when you go into the Bible, you read stories about people who live hundreds of years. You read stories about, let's say, like the Anunnaki story and stuff like that. You read the individuals that are charting 25,000-year cycles, the great year and stuff like that. They're living through multiple occurrences of the great year or whatever case may be, exceeding crazy lifespans. Kings list with kings that live in thousands of years, hundreds of years or whatever case may be, potentially because the electrical environment of the cell, maybe also, maybe the genetic material in itself, but the electrical environment of the cell was probably optimized in that environment, I'm assuming. Okay, so the resulting stable cellular environment is resistant to electrical dissonance. We went over that. Okay, the effectiveness of Kriya Yoga in modulating gene expression confirms that the body-mind connection provides the essential internal pathway to repair the mitochondrial engine, reinforcing the idea that the Bio-Aetheric Feedback Loop operates as a mechanism of systematic self-optimization. It's self-fixing, self-repairing, self-healing. All right. Quantum coherence and biosemiconductors, synthesis of Dr. Jack Kruse and Robert Becker. The Bioetheric Feedback Loop archives its highest synthetic rigor by merging Dr. Jack Kruse's quantum input model with Robert Becker's bioelectrical circuitry, identifying the physical substrate responsible for energy transfer and information fidelity. Yeah, the physical substrate, like how we talked about, that will tie back into the melanin. Okay, the biological semiconductor hypothesis in detail. Becker's research postulated the existence of a regulatory signaling system within the body that operates independently of the slower nervous system. So this is not the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. These are not those nervous systems. This is a different third one, an analog nervous system that your cells use to communicate. Okay, this instantaneous systematic information network relies on specific regulatory proteins acting as semiconductors. We also liken that to batteries. Okay, semiconductors possessing conductivity properties between those of a conductor and an insulator, making them ideal for modulating the flow of distribution of the DC electrical current that governs biological signaling necessary for rapid healing and growth. The crucial link between Kruz's emphasis on light and Becker's electrical circuit is established by identifying these semiconductor proteins in hemoglobin and other cellular structures. These proteins function as conduits carrying the absorbed photonic energy toward the waterways of the mitochondria. This process mirrors the electron capture phase of photosynthesis. So we talked about that in the video about the melanin and everything like that. What melanin does, dissociates the water molecule and everything like that. How mitochondria, according to Dr. Kruz, actually produces water. You see what I'm saying? Okay, the photonic engine in DC current generation. The biological mechanism driving this system suggests that the human organism is fundamentally a photonic engine. It runs on light, or accurately described as a light sucker, right? He calls the human system a light sucker. We talked about the human biofield. We talked about cells as semiconductors, all of that. By some researchers, humans absorb light through UV receptors in the eyes and skin, stimulating metabolic pathways like the POMC, leptic melanin cortin pathway. The mitochondria ETC functions analogously to a photosynthetic reaction, right? The mitochondrial electron transfer channel functions analogous to a photosynthetic reaction, right? So the mitochondria in humans would be what's responsible for human photosynthesis on a large part, collecting electrons that absorb energy from the photons delivered by the semiconductors, right? This quantum energy transfer is mediated by the structure of water within the cell. The DC field actively organizes water into this state, and structured water optimizes the delivery and flow of electrons through the semiconductive protein networks to the mitochondria, maximizing ATP production while minimizing the leakage of electrons that leads to ROS generation. ROS is the oxidative stress stuff. Okay, the resulting energy generation process is critical for regeneration, as the phosphate bonds of ATP are broken down to supply energy. So what we're talking about that's kind of like photosynthesis is prior to when the ATP is created. They emit light called biophotons, further supporting cellular communication. Utilizing the same network that we're talking about. More importantly, the sustained, powerful DC electric current generated by highly efficient mitochondria serves as the regenerative force, right? Providing DC electrical impulses initiates the regeneration. You see what I'm saying? Providing the continuous informational instruction set required for cell maintenance. So the information from the blueprint is how they keep renewing their cells and knowing how to fix their cells. This current is documented to drive the regenerative process of de-differentiation, allowing specialized red blood cells to revert into versatile stem cells. The function of this DC current is to continuously enhance the epigenetic blueprint, ensuring that the necessary instructions for system integrity are constantly maintained. It's constantly fixing and repairing itself. The fabric, not just your body, but the fabric of reality in itself. Okay, so hypothetical conditions for stopping aging, right? Based on the synthesis of the bioetheric feedback loop, the cessation of aging is not achieved through endless repairing accumulated damage, right? But rather by maintaining a state of perpetual, continuous electrical coherence. What? Aging is defined as the accumulation of electrical dissonance. Stopping aging, therefore, requires eliminating this dissonance, right? So how we were talking about people living longer and stuff like that, if the planet was in a situation where the electrical environment was more coherent and everything like that, or facilitated greater coherence or whatever, yeah, things could live longer, grow larger, all that. The hypothetical conditions necessary for achieving zero dissonance longevity stated are threefold: maximum coherent quantum input, ensuring consistent and optimal spectral inputs of light. The light is one thing. Structured water, that's another thing. And magnetism, right? All right. So keep in mind when we talk about the argument about the herbs and stuff like that, when you're eating herbs, you're eating light. When you say the inputs of light, it means your food prepared in a particular way, or food with a particular quality of light, because when you eat things, you're eating the light, right? So magnetism, okay, this requires maximizing photon capture and structuring the cellular environment to optimize the flow of electrons, like we talked about, feng shui, vastu shastra, all these different things, even astrocardiography. Maximal informational transfer, achieving perfect phase lock function of the biological semiconductor proteins. This transfer efficiently is optimized through the practices of yoga and pranayama, which imposes rhythmic order coherence on the systematic bioelectrical field. So basically certain practices that you do. So you see how it's saying you don't just take one vector. The light is one thing, the food is one thing, the water is one thing, the pranayams, the asanas is another thing. What you actually do, your behavior, how you function, or whatever case may be, that's a whole nother factor. You always approach these things through multiple vectors. You don't just get. We live in a society where everything is made to make us lazy. We can't get lazy because if you lose it, if you do not use it, you will lose it. If you say, oh, I don't want to do it like that, I can just, all I got to do is press this button and I can get gratification or whatever case may be. Well, over time, you're gonna lose the ability to perform that skill that you were doing before you started pressing the button. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so maximal epigenetic fidelity, maintaining an unimpaired maximum strength DC field capable of ensuring constant, accurate instructions necessary for driving instantaneous stem cell dedifferentiation and perpetual maintaining the clarity of epigenetic blueprint. Okay, unimpaired maximum strength DC field, right? Staying charged, basically. This synthesis reveals that the bioetheric feedback loop operates as an integrated photonic electrical circuit, right? It absorbs light and turns it into electricity so it can use. That sound like melanin, don't it? Cruz's model provides the energy input, photons translated to electrons. Bishop from the X-Men, like we're talking about. Becker's model describes the physical circuitry, semiconductor, proteins, and the DC field, and yogic practices provides the active regulatory mechanism, pranayamas, impose coherence. Aging results from the breakdown of any part of this circuit, leading to electrical and informational failure, right? Okay, right. Alchemical coherence, Rasa Shastra, Basamas, and bioelectrical healing. Okay, integration of Rasa Shastra, the medical alchemy of Ayurveda, into the bioetheric feedback loop addresses the need of exogenous intervention when the endogenous bioelectrical circuit is damaged or insufficient. Basically, instead of charging your stuff yourself and just using a way to do it from inside of you or whatever case may be, you're employing outside means, you know what I'm saying, to get this done. Rasa Shastra, the science of Mercury, tying into alchemy and stuff like that. Not advocating nobody play around with no Mercury. This is just, you see what I'm saying, just a further contrast in what we're talking about. Okay, this analysis proposes that Rasa Shastra products are fundamentally engineered materials designed to function as sophisticated biosemiconductors that interface directly with Becker's DC system. The relevance of why we even bringing Rasa Shastra into this, Rasa Shastra is the science of medicine, is basically what they call, basically the definition of it is basically what the philosopher's stone, basically, either creating an elixir of immortality or healing the body using mercury specifically, or metals. It's a mixture of metallurgy and botany. You see what I'm saying? In herbalism and stuff like that. It's a whole book. We did a whole video on it. Tahuti's Alchemy versus Lord Shiva's Rasa Shastra. It's a whole book by Andrew Mason. He talks about the whole chemical breakdown and everything's like that. So it ain't nothing pseudo, as y'all like to say. Okay, so but the reason why we even get into that is because Becker did something of that nature. Not preparing medicines used with mercury or anything like that, but he used silver ions to initiate the regeneration process. So that's why I even bring that in, because certain metals that are also semiconductors can have an effect on the body's systems as far as healing is concerned. So Rasa Shastra, the science of metallic transformation. Rasa Shastra focuses on the preparation of bismuth, compounds of purified metals, minerals, or gems reduced to ultrafine ashes, powders, after meticulous processing. Again, with the Rasa Shastra thing, they're not just combining metals and drinking mercury or something like that. This is mixed with astrology. It's mixed with certain rituals that prepare the body. It's a whole system or whatever. So this is just a correlation. We just trying to use this as an example. I'm not trying to get nobody to go out there and play with nothing that's gonna get them hurt. Okay, so the efficacy of these preparations is thought to reside in the material's energetic state and physical form rather than the simple raw chemical composition. The efficacy of the preparations is thought to reside in the material's energetic state and physical form rather than the simple raw chemical composition. So less about the chemicals, more about the energy. Okay, the production process involves intense thermal manipulation and specific chemical reactions. A core principle utilized is Ariloha, the metal's enemy, which requires the introduction of specific enemy metals during the processing to force the preliminary metal to lose its cohesion. This process mutually weakens their structures until they can be physically reduced to fine nanoparticulate powders. Through trituration, subsequently, these fine metallic ashes are further triturated with organic materials. Like I say, it's a mixture of metallurgy and botany to enhance their bioavailability and specific therapeutic properties before reaching the finished state. Andrew Mason's work is the area in this area emphasizes the detailed preparation methodology, including the properties of various water sources, mountain, dew, rain, and not Mountain Dew to drink, mountain, comma, dew, comma, rain, and the use of metallic vessels, copper, iron, to potentize the collected water, suggesting a focus on energetic and material state rather than the bulk chemistry. So he's focusing on the energetic state of things rather than just the chemical in its chemical properties. Robert Becker and the silver ion catalyst. Robert Becker's seminal work demonstrated that the application of specific metallic ions, most famously the silver ion, could act as an electrical catalyst to induce complete tissue regeneration. So it's a similar thing. I'm just making the correlation between Rasa Shastra, which would be alchemy or the philosopher's stone, all that. That's not nothing fictional. Alchemy is not just mental transmutation. It's a physical thing. It's a mixture between botany and metallurgy, or whatever case may be. We got a whole video about it. No need to bog this down with that. Okay, so this effect was achieved by interacting directly with the body's DC field, stimulating a systematic shift that triggered cellular dedifferentiation and repair. Dedifferentiation when it goes from a liver cell, hypothetically, to a stem cell, to a hypothetical kidney cell, neuron, whatever it needs to be. This phenomenon proves that the specific exogenous electrical materials can forcibly override pathological electrical dissonance. So that's what you're doing with this Rasa Shastra and all that, this alchemy and everything like that. Oh, we turning base metals into gold, or we trying to take the elixir of life that has mercury or gold or whatever in it. The phenomena proves that specific exogenous electrical materials can forcibly override pathological electrical dissonance and reinstate the coherence necessary for biological programming. So they're conductors, they're materials with certain electrical properties that can offset electrical dissonance in the body. So we're dealing with it from an electrical perspective. I'm not advising nobody to go go out and try none of that or whatever. If you don't know a person, if you can't find the obscure, hard to find people who actually practice these things and kind of, you know, get some kind of studying up under them so you don't go out here and kill yourself, I wouldn't advise really doing this. Okay, so moving right along. Okay, so cross-reference but Bismuth as engineered biosemiconductors. The unifying hypothesis links Becker's silver ion research to Rasa Shastra in that the bismuths are intentionally designed, highly specialized, exogenous semiconductors, something outside of the person, engineered at the quantum scale to repair or amplify compromised sections of the body's DC circuit, right? So they're trying to repair or amplify aspects of the body's DC circuit by mixing metals of certain qualities with herbs of certain qualities and coming out with some sort of new mixture in the end. This ain't me saying this. Andrew Mason has a whole book on it. We got a whole video on it. People talk about this. This is a thing. Okay, so the complex Aloha processing is hypothesized to modify the metallic structure to create nanoparticles with optimal electrical characteristics, right? So that's what they're doing, something like this with carbon nanotubules and things of that nature. So this is not far-fetched, such as specific capacitance, conductivity, or semiconductivity. When assimilated, these particles are hypothesized to seek out and interface with areas exhibiting high electrical dissonance, areas of injury, disease. Excuse me, that was an alarm. Or extreme aging, where the endogenous protein semiconductor system, Becker's circuitry, has failed or been compromised. By introducing a highly conductive or semiconductor material, the bismuths act to reinforce the local DC field. So the materials they're using in Rasa Shastra to hook up this medicine, this immortality medicine as it's been called or whatever, or to Rasa Shastra, if you look it up, it's designed to cure incurable diseases, basically. You feel me? So, but it does this by using semiconductors, mixing it with herbal medicine and stuff like that, to repair this DC field or this DC system, mimicking the powerful regenerative effects that Becker observed with the applied silver ion. The nuanced nature of Rasa Shastra, very nuanced, emphasizes preparation methods and material form, underscores that the mechanism of efficacy lies in the material's electrical properties rather than its simple toxicological profile. So they're relying on the electrical properties of the metal or whatever they're dealing with rather than its toxicological profile or whatever case may be, providing a technical rationale for the powerful yet sometimes controversial use of metals in traditional healing, people eating metals and stuff like that, right? Like I used the example in the last video about the emperor of the Qing dynasty. Qing, China, you see what I'm saying? Emperor of the Qing dynasty, he died from consuming mercury. This is why, because he comes from a region of the world where this was a thing, Rasa Shastra, where that was the elixir of immortality and stuff like that. So when prepared correctly. So the context of Bio-Aetheric Feedback Loop, Rasa Shastra, functions as a practical alchemical branch providing necessary hardware upgrades to the body, exogenous, outside of the self, semiconductors like silver and mercury to complement the internal software optimization achieved by yogic practice, coherence regulation. Okay, so all right, long walk. Okay, but we down to the finish line, the conclusion. The Bio-Aetheric Feedback Loop successfully integrates a disparate fields, quantum biology, DC electrophysiology, consciousness studies, and ancient alchemy into a single cohesive model of health, aging, and longevity. The model establishes the fundamental principle that coherence is life, coherence, resonance is life, and dissonance is decay. Yogic practices provide the sophisticated voluntary methodology for enforcing coherence upon the system, actively coupling the conscious mind, the etheric imprint, to the biological hardware, the bioelectrical outprint, right? The conscious mind being the etheric input, to the biological hardware, the bioelectrical output. We're a product of that. Okay, the unified etheric paradigm. Aging is defined as a cumulative, this is the punchline. Aging is defined as a cumulative breakdown of informational and energetic fidelity. You no longer can receive information from the blueprint. The antenna that receives information and energy from the blueprint is breaking down. So your cells don't know how to repair themselves. Your cells don't know how to get them back how you was looking when you was 25. Beginning with the loss of electrical coherence in the DC system, which subsequently leads to a failure of mitochondrial electron efficiency, oxidative stress damage to mitochondrial DNA, and the resultant loss of epigenetic information. Kriya Yoga and Pranayama restore the coherence by imposing higher order electrical rhythms on the central nervous system and modulating genomic defenses. So this is in essence what is being done. We're dealing with it electrically. So it's a lot of spiritual and religious connotations associated with a lot of this stuff. I'm not trying to cheapen any of that, but I'm just trying to take it to this other framework so we can get some nuances that we didn't get out of the original thing. And I think that has proven the case on numerous videos of this nature. Dr. Jack Cruz focuses on light, water, and magnitudes, provides the necessary underlying understanding quantum inputs are required to power the mitochondrial engine. Quantum inputs required to power the mitochondrial engine. Mitochondria feeds off light is one of the things, which relies on Robert Becker's semiconductor proteins for efficient photon-electron transfer. You see what I'm saying? Remember how Tesla don't believe in electrons or photons or whatever, so it's a level of resonance or what have you. You see what I'm saying? Finally, Rasa Shastra offers specialized exogenously engineered materials, bismas, things outside of yourself, metals and things outside of yourself, designed to interface with and repair compromised segments of the endogenous bioelectrical circuit. Implications of decentralized longevity medicine. This framework strongly endorses the principles of decentralized medicine, arguing that true longevity and disease reversal may shift focus from treating late-stage molecular symptoms, the nuclear genome, focus to optimizing the quantum foundation of life, the mitochondrial DC field locus, right? Longevity strategies must therefore center on maximizing electron efficiency via optimal quantum inputs, light and water, because we're going to talk about in another video how water is a battery. I think, Dr. Cruz talk about that. A couple other people talk about that. Stabilizing the informational blueprint through the consistent practice of yogic coherence techniques and utilizing engineered biophysical catalysts like targeted mineral compounds to repair acute or chronic electrical damage where endogenous systems have failed. You see what I'm saying? So for our purposes, I'm not going to tell you to go out and drink mercury. I would tell you the that last one would be the herbs, taking herbs and things of that nature. I think that's a safer alternative to you hooking up some Rasa Shastra. You feel me? Okay, so validation and future research to move the Bio-Aetheric Feedback Loop from a theoretical synthesis to a validated scientific model. Future research must focus on quantifiable biophysical markers, bioelectrical quantification of attainment. Prospective studies are required for accurately measure changes in bioelectrical impedance, resistance, reactance, and specifically the phase angle during advanced yogic states, particularly samadhi, and quantifying the phase angle marker of cellular membrane integrity. Yeah, okay, so that's pretty much what we had for today on that one. Just wanted to get into that. We revisited Rasa Shastra again from an electrical perspective. What would be the benefit of introducing metals in conjunction with herbs into the body? As we can see, for their electrical value and not their chemical toxicity, there can be benefits. Don't advise nobody to do that unless you go to Sri Lanka somewhere and find somebody that know how to do that. So instead of, that's just I don't know, an example and something submitted for our contrast. However, in place of that, I would suggest, herbs and things of that nature or what have you. But yeah, man, just going into that a little bit, longevity, um, why we age and all that from an electrical perspective. I hope y'all got a lot out of that. Yeah, man. If y'all like what y'all been hearing, like and subscribe. We're gonna continue to pump these out, man. Appreciate y'all. Peace to the gods. Catch y'all next time.